Sean, everybody. I'm with North Branch Nature Center up here in Montpelier. This is the first in our Naturalist Journeys 2023 series. We're really excited to kick things off with Rodney Stotts here in just a moment. Just want to say a couple thank yous and just orientation to the Zoom room here. So first and foremost, I want to thank Green Mountain Audubon Society for helping put this on tonight with us. And I want to thank all the sponsors that hopefully you can see up on the screen here, especially our lead sponsors, Hunger Mountain Co-op and 802 Coffee. So big thanks to everybody for making our Naturalist Journeys series possible. And you can go over to our website, northbranchnaturecenter.org, to see all the other programs that we have, coming up throughout January, February, and March. This year, things are a little bit different in that we are doing some of these on Tuesdays, some of them on Wednesdays, some of them in person, some of them online. We can't really quite figure out exactly what to stick with now that we're out of the pandemic and folks are great at Zooming and good at being back in person too. So we're kind of doing a little bit of everything so that different folks can choose their own adventure. So throughout tonight, we're going to keep this casual and have a big Q&A as we go. So you'll find a Q&A bar somewhere at the bottom of your screen. And feel free to put any questions you have in there, and I'll moderate those questions to Rodney as we go. So I'm going to stop my screen share here and find all the other buttons that I need. So bear with me for just a second here. All right. Cool. Well, Rodney Stotts, we're really excited to have you. Thanks so much for joining us virtually here. Folks, Rodney's a master falconer living in Virginia or over in the DC area at the moment. I'm not sure where you are these days, but author of an awesome new book that came out earlier this year, Bird Brother. I'll put a link into the chat so you can check this out and pick it up. We'll also have it at our library at North Branch Nature Center if folks want to check it out. Yeah, Rodney, thanks so much for joining us. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself a bit and talk about yourself for a moment, and we can kind of go into the Q&A whenever you'd like.
Sure. Thanks again for having me. Like I said, my name is Rodney Stotts. I'm a master falconer. I've been working with birds of prey for 30 years now. Been a falconer for about 13 years. Worked with a program up in DC and Maryland on the grounds of the old Oak Hill Youth Detention Center. I run a program up there called Wings Over America, and I've also started a program called Rodney's Raptors. And I'm building a human sanctuary with animals. So I have a place down in Charlotte Courthouse, Virginia, where people can come and camp out and ride horses and feed the chickens and feed the goats and get up in the morning and bird watch and camp out and just have a ball. And the entire thing is donation based. Because you can't afford something doesn't mean you don't deserve it. So you can get up every morning, feed the homeless, walk kids to school, do everything, but you don't have money to learn how to ride a horse. So does that mean you don't deserve it? No, it just means you couldn't afford it. Well, if you got here and you had $6 in your pocket, you learned how to ride a horse the same way that someone had $60,000. No one's treated any better, everyone's the same. And it's a place to just come where you can heal. You know, every one of us go through something every single day, some sort of pressure, stresses, and we need a place to be able to get it all because stress really does kill. So that's one of the main things that I'm in the process of doing. It's called Dippy's Dream. It's named after my mom that passed away about 7 years ago. And it's just a sanctuary for people. It's not a animal sanctuary. It has animals, but it's for healing us. And I truly believe that animals can touch your soul in places that people just can't do. So that's pretty much who I am in a nutshell. I'm an animal junkie. I have horses, birds, dogs, you name it. I actually started Rodney's Raptors because the program that we worked for were basically for adjudicated youth. So we were talking about fighting the recidivism rate. So if you don't go to jail to begin with, there is no recidivism. So I got a little frustrated of having to tell people, I can't help you unless you get arrested. So go get arrested and then come back. And now you can join this program. And so I started Rodney's Raptors so that I can teach anybody that had a passion to learn about raptors. And for those select few that wanted to become a falconer and they were truly dedicated, I would sponsor them. So I've sponsored 4 people so far to become falconers.
One of them being your son, right?
Yes. One of my sons, I sponsored him. He's a DC firefighter. He'll be a master falconer in 2 more years.
That was one of the things that I left when I finished the book. I was wondering how your son's falconry journey is progressing and how he's doing.
Yes, he's still the same with it. He loves his birds the same way I do. We take them out, fly them, have a ball. It's a bonding experience. I explain to people, I have 5 or 6 Harris hawks. So these are the most social birds. They will fly together, hunt together. They're the only raptor species that does it. So you can take 5 people out. Everyone has a bird, toss a bird up, walk through the woods. And as long as we stay as a group, the birds will follow us around. They hunt cooperatively. And you're sitting there and you're looking at each other and you're saying, why can't we do exactly what they're doing? Set aside whatever differences for the greater good of everything. And that's why I tell people, these animals, if you really take yourself out of us feeling like we have dominion over everything, we know every answer to every question, there's a reason. No, it's not. Just let them take you, and believe me, we would really realize how small we are in the grand scheme of things. The way that we approach things and take things and carry things, it would really help you to start changing those things, because you realize that the pettiness, the dumbness about certain, you just let it go. And these animals will really help you let it go. You can go outside and curse your bird out and get everything off that you couldn't say to your boss. And you know what your bird's going to do at the end? Look right at you and love you just the same. So, I mean, believe me, it's just, that's why anyone will tell you that knows me, my animals come first. You can slap my children. They're all grown now, so they can handle themselves. I don't have anything to do with it. If you hurt my goldfish, I'm coming to get you. Yes, sir.
One of the kind of scenes that you paint towards the end of your book is releasing a red-tailed hawk back to the wild and giving folks an opportunity to kind of put on this hawk their hopes and their dreams and their intentions for the year ahead and all of that. And I just thought that was such a beautiful way to connect people with wildlife. And for you, it seemed like, you know, these birds are really, you know, an extension of who you are and who you want to be and how you want people to be.
Well, what I do when we trap birds, the whole goal is to release them back into the wild. 85–90% of the juvenile birds won't make it through that first winter. So when we trap the birds, we trap juveniles, and then we're going to release them. So now they have a 90% chance of surviving and reproducing, which actually helps the population stay good without declining. So when I'm going to release that bird, I will go on social media and let everyone know I'm going to release my bird today or tomorrow. You know, if anyone has a loved one that passed away or sick or just want to say a prayer for them or anything, the closest thing that gets to God is what? His winged creatures. We can't fly up there and touch it. So if we put it on those wings of that animal, it's going to get to them. It's going to get closer to them than anything. So people will send me the names. It can be 60, 70, 80 names. I'll go out, and I'll film it, and I'll read off every single name, say a prayer, and then release the bird. And to me, it's just something that I do. However, to the people that respond back and tell me what it meant to them, so to me, that's the greatest payment that you can get. You made someone else smile and happy, and it didn't cost you a thing. It didn't hurt you at all. So why wouldn't you do it? And so to me, like I said, to me, it's just something that I do. I've been doing this 14 years. So it's just a routine thing. And losing my mom and everything, my brother, my son was killed, and one of my sons was killed July 5th. So when I release these birds, I always feel like that spirit is there with them. And, you know, Yeah, so it helps me. So I think if it helps me, it can help someone else.
Yeah. So, and the book is your book is about a lot of things, but one is like how you kind of found your path through environmental work, and then later working with birds as well. And so the work that you're doing to try to inspire young people is a result of you being inspired yourself and seeing that as kind of the way that you wanted to go, right?
Well, see, the thing a lot of people don't understand, the time when I was growing up, as far as like nature, the outdoors, the birds, things of that nature, wasn't a priority. Eating was a priority. Staying alive was a priority. This is when crack first came to DC when I was 13, 14 years old. So all of those things were about not having wish sandwiches, having 2 slices of bread and nothing to go in between them. And then when you have someone that people think people start hustling because they want cars and flash. And no, they don't. They want to eat first and foremost. And then to tell someone to stop eating, that what they're doing is wrong, and to go do something that they're only going to make 5% of what they were making. However, we want you to go do this and not do this. For a lot of people, that's not an option until you realize that being in that 5% that went and did that, you're in a 95% of staying alive, because that other it's not too many places you're going to end up. And so working with the conservation company that I was working with and everything, starting to work with the birds, I've always loved animals. My whole life, I've had some sort of animal. So the birds came along because of the conservation company that I was working for. We were doing a lot of work on the river, and we realized that bald eagles had left the nation's capital in the late 40s, early 50s because of the DDTs and the poisons in the river, and that there were no birds along the Anacostia nesting that were bald eagles again. So as we started doing the cleanup projects along the river, we started noticing the amount of fish species coming back. So we knew that the river would now start to sustain life. So we had 16 baby bald eagles for 4 years, 4 eaglets each year at the National Arboretum, and we would release 4 eaglets each year. The first nesting pair of eagles came back and nested along the Anacostia in 1999. So now you had nesting pair of eagles every year. So every year you'll hear people on the news talking about the eagles are hatching the eggs and people want to name them and everything. I've actually called the news and asked them, how did the eagles get back? And they had no idea.
Can you talk a little bit more about that, that work with Earth Conservation? Is it Earth Conservation Corps? Am I getting the name right?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how you got involved with that in the first place, and kind of your story kind of ending up on the Anacostia River, and just what that experience was like?
Definitely. What happened was I was hustling. I was selling drugs at the time. And as you all know, you don't get a W-2 when you sell drugs. So anything that you need, apartment or something, you got to show where your income is coming from. So there was 2 jobs going on at a little job fair, Earth Conservation Corps. And then there was a job at a cleaning company. Well, I can't be inside of a building. I have to be outside. I can't sit in an office in a cubicle. I will go crazy. So that job was paying maybe $300 or $400 a week. The Earth Conservation Corps was only paying $100 a week. However, I knew I would be outside and didn't have to be around a lot of people. So I ended up taking that job. As we started cleaning the river, cleaning the creek as a tributary to the Anacostia, it had over 5,000 tires, car engines, motorcycles. I mean, you name it, people just used it as a dump. So within the first few weeks of us being out there, we started seeing great blue herrings coming back and beavers coming back and tadpoles in the water. And it kind of felt like we were giving birth in a sense. You would see a new life. And so that kind of motivated me to want to just keep doing it. Then the raptors came along and we found out about what was going on, that there were no raptors, none of the bald eagles nesting in the nation's capital anymore. The osprey weren't there anymore. A lot of the native raptors were basically leaving because of the river system. Anything that used the river system, they couldn't really sustain it. So we actually started tagging osprey under South Capitol Street Bridge as we brought back the fish population. We started tagging the osprey. We named one for me and one for another guy. The one that was actually named for me flew to Jamaica one year. They fly to Venezuela every year and fly back to the nation's capital, South Capitol Street, every March. Then the next year, unfortunately, the bird that was named for me was hit by a plane and died. That's what happens with a lot of the birds right there at National Airport. We got the tracker back a year later, and we actually put it on one other osprey, which was the last one that we released, named Layla, so that they can track her. So there's a guy named Rob Beauregard, who's a world-renowned osprey guy who I actually did a lot of the studies with. So if you guys look him up, you'll find all of those osprey where they fly, where they migrate to every year, the track back and everything like that. So it just went from there. And then seeing people, like when you bring the birds out and everything, I explain to people, I may not remember you, but you'll always remember the 6'2" black guy you saw walking with an owl on his arm. So when people walk up and they see me, they'll, do you remember me? I met you 5 years ago. I'm like, I met 40,000 people within that time. So I don't necessarily remember you. If you tell me one of the, and then they all tell me about the time that I let them hold a bird, or they got to do these things or go out on a hunt with me, and how that changed them and how they started looking at things different, things of that nature. And I explain to people, I was just a vessel that was put there. I didn't do anything that you couldn't have done yourself. I was just there to give you that spark. And now you have it, you carried on, you kept it going. People will call me and say, you saved my life. I say, no, I didn't. You did. I didn't come to your house every morning and wake you up and make you get up and go to work or go to school and do those things. You got inspired when you held that animal, that bird, that everyone assumes was going to kill you. And we saw these movies and they attack and no, they don't. And then when you look them in their eyes and they look you and your soul, I don't care who you think you are, they're going to break you. They literally, I was one who used to sell drugs, carry guns, do all of that crazy nonsense. Looking back, realizing like one of the first times that I really connected with my animal, and that animal looked me in my face and told me, stop playing. That ain't you. And slowly you'll start to change, because anything that you're addicted to, because addicted to eating and making money, you become addicted. It takes time to wean off. And those animals just help me. I mean, with my mom passing, my brother, my son, if it wasn't for my animals, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys. I'd be in a rubber room with a straight jacket on, bouncing off the walls. But I name my animals after my loved ones, so I'm never alone. When someone dies, the first thing we always say is they're up there looking down on us. Okay, well, if my bird's named after my mother and I let my bird up, my bird is up there looking down on me the same way she does. When you talk to them, you don't hear what you want to hear back. You'll hear exactly what they would have told you had they been sitting there. And I tell people it's all on what you believe. You don't have to believe that someone can talk to that animal or hear that. That's what you believe. I know what I know. I know what they tell me. If my animal tell me, don't be around this person, you have to leave. It's that simple. If my bird, who's been on 500 people's hands, never moved, never kirked off, never did anything, and I set them on your hand and this bird starts acting up, you have to move away from me. There's something about you that my bird don't trust. So I'm going to trust my bird more than I trust you.
Would you tell the story about the eagle you rescued off the fence and how that connected to your mom?
About 2 months before the eagle actually got caught, my mom had passed away a few months before. So after the eaglets were born, we actually named one after my mom. My son happened to go to work one day on his day off, and he called me and he said, "Dad, it's a baby bald eagle stuck in the fence up here." I said, "Are you sure it's an eagle?" "Dad, it's an eaglet. It's a female. It's huge." I go to where he is, and sure enough, what happened was there was a wrought iron gate, and I guess the eagle tried to land on the top, and by the poles, when they went to grab with their talons, it slid down, and its neck got caught in between the gate. It's actually a video in the on my documentary. It shows that actual saving of that eaglet. So I scaled this fence. It was like a 30, 40-foot drop behind me, took my belt off and locked my belt around onto the poles, because my son was saying, "Dad, if you fall, you're going to get hurt." He's actually the falconer that was in that video. So I locked my belt around the pole, and I said, "Man, I'm not leaving until we get this bird." So I sat there for about 10, 15 minutes, finally got it to release his talons and was able to get him off. And the way that I was, like I said, 30, 40 feet over like a little cliff, hanging on by my belt. So I couldn't walk the bird. It was maybe 100 yards back down to the end of the fence. So I had to make sure he was okay. He sat there, and I had to, when I released it, it took off and flew off. And I was telling my son that that was the female eaglet from the nest that had just blown down, that was maybe a mile away. And I know that that was the eaglet because it was tagged. And so that eaglet, actually, it was on the 1-year anniversary of my mother's death. And the eaglet that was caught in the fence was the one that we named for her. So I ended up getting that eaglet out, not even knowing that that's the one that it was, until we saw the band, knowing that that was the one that we named for her. So it just came full circle around 1 year to the day that eaglet got caught.
Folks, I just want to encourage folks to throw questions into the Q&A here. I'm seeing them roll in here, and I'll go ahead and toss a few of them here to Rodney. There was a question that says, "Post the link to Rodney's organization." So I'm going to ask you this next question, and then I'm going to go and add your website to the chat here for everybody. So excuse me for looking away. But let's see, one good question that came in was, how does one become a falconer, and how does one become a master falconer?
Well, to become a falconer, first and foremost, you must love animals, love the birds. It's not something I would recommend for people that think it's a hobby or something like that. It's a lifestyle. It's a life change. Believe me, it's a lot of work to it. And if you're dedicated to it, it's one of the most fulfilling things you could ever do. You would find a general falconer of at least 3 years or a master falconer to sponsor you, depending on what state you're in. Once that person says they'll sponsor you, you'll study your test. You'll take the falconry test for that state. Once you pass that test, you'll build an aviary, which is the house that you'll keep your bird in. The Fish and Wildlife will come out and inspect that aviary, make sure that it's up to par, everything's right, the safety of the bird, that's most important. Once they pass that, now your sponsor will take you out trapping your first bird, teach you how to make the anklets and jest, how to train your bird, get them to eat off the glove, hop to you, follow you, everything. After 2 years, your sponsor will then write a letter to Fish and Wildlife saying you need to be promoted from an apprentice to a general falconer. Once you're promoted to a general falconer, you no longer have a sponsor. You're pretty much, you should have the knowledge to now keep going without any assistance. So over the next 2 or 3 years, now you're a general of 3 years, you sponsor someone else. And after 5 years, after 5 years of being a general falconer, you'll become a master falconer. So it takes 7 years to become a master falconer in the state of Maryland.
And while we're at it, some other kind of falconry questions here. So how often do you go out trapping birds?
We only trap in the wintertime, the late fall, early winter. because the babies are usually hatching in March, June, July. You'll find your branchers and their fledglings around that time. So during that first winter, those birds, the juveniles, about 90% won't make it through that first winter. So you'll start trapping once the foliage falls off the trees and stuff. Now you can see the birds. You'll set your balsatry trap out. Bird lands on the trap. If it's an adult, you have to release that bird. You cannot take something from the wild that's already grown that can survive. So you'll take the juvenile bird, you'll take them home, you'll put anklets and gestures on them, you'll weigh them, and then you'll start your training with them. So you really only trapping during that time. And then in March, April, you'll take your bird out just as the spring coming in and the leaves are starting to come back on the trees. You'll take your bird out for its final hunt, because you're not teaching the bird to hunt. You're asking the bird to allow you to hunt with it. So on that last one, how do you decline this? On that last one, what you'll end up doing,
Looks like Rodney's frozen up here. We'll give him a minute to log out and log back in.
to answer the phone.
Hey, gotcha.
Yeah, my apologies. I was trying not to answer a call and I ended up hitting the wrong button. And yeah, I'm sorry. What happens is in February, March, April, you'll take them out on that last hunt. You'll cut all of the anklets and gestures and things off of them. Once the bird makes the kill, you'll go get in your car and leave, because now that bird is back to being a wild bird again. The next time he goes to hunt, you're not there. He'll go off and hunt on his own. If you happen to run into that bird again, say 2-3 weeks later, you painted one of the talons green just so that you would know if you ever saw it again. It'll wear off eventually, so you're not really worried about that part of it. And you happen to see him and you call for that bird should now come back to you again. And that's what you want, because now that bird, you never imprinted it. You never got it to depend on you for food. So you actually take the bird out hunting with the bird all winter long. And then, like I said, just as the spring coming in, you'll cut everything off, release them. Now that bird has a greater chance of surviving, reproducing, keeping the species population up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. That was one big eye-opening thing from reading your book about how falconry works. That, I think my assumption beforehand was that, as a falcon, you're taking a bird from the wild. And what I think I didn't realize, and most don't, is that you're doing that to give it a fighting chance, so that you put it back in the wild and its odds of survival are much greater. Yeah.
Yes.
Super.
That a lot of people I would run into and they would say, you have a bird and it's locked in a cage and it's this and it. And I say, no, actually what happens is a lot of times, just like with the injured raptors, because a bird has a broken wing and that bird can no longer hunt anymore, should you euthanize that bird? No. If that bird has a good quality of life and it's not in any pain, if you break your leg and you can't run 20 miles an hour anymore, should you be euthanized? No. Your quality of life is still good. So the statement with the birds. So we use the birds as ambassadors, and we explain to people about hunting. Like when you go out and you hunt, that's why they barred the pellets and everything, the lead pellets, because a hunter would shoot a deer, leave the carcass. Now you have birds that come down, eat them, one lead pellet, that bird passes away. You have people that farm. I have a farm. I use no pesticides to kill the mice or anything. I let the birds do it. That's what they naturally do. If I poison the mice, they eat the birds eat them. Now I poison the birds. So those things that we're ending up doing, killing the birds and hurting the birds, not really knowing, paying attention to things of that nature. So my thing is to let them do what they do. So you give them that fighting chance to survive. Now that bird, you're not, a lot of people think you teach the bird to hunt. You do not teach the bird to hunt. The bird, when you caught the bird was hunting. That's why you caught him on your trap. So what you're trying to get the bird to understand is, if we work together, your job will be less harder to do. I'll chase out the game. You go catch it. We'll share. Because you never make the bird think it works for you. So you reward the bird. Even if you guys didn't catch anything that day, you still reward the bird so that the bird understands we are partners until it's time to resolve that partnership.
So there's a lot of questions coming in. I thank you for them, and I already know that we're not going to get to them all. So apologies in advance for picking and choosing here. I'm trying to kind of condense some of these in my mind, but maybe I'll ask this one from Trisha O'Kane here. So we'll do this question, and maybe then we can transition over to maybe meeting one of the birds, and then we can do some more Q&A after that. If that works for you, Rodney. So here's the question from Trisha O'Kane. She says, I so admire your work and use your book as a text at the University of Vermont. Thanks for all that you're doing. My question is, in this era of Black Lives Matter, and given how much privilege underlies the world of ornithology, what should conscious anti-racist white birders be doing to fight racism and injustice in the birding and conservation world?
Well, to be totally honest with you, I try to stay out of all of that whole political this and that. Everyone has to atone for their own. Everyone has to do for it. So if you're conscious of something, then show it. I mean, there's no other way of me. I can't tell you what to do that will make someone else happy or something to that, or please someone else. Every one of us know who we are. If you know that you're a good person, you're not racist, you're not this, you're not, because you have a racist thought one day doesn't make you a racist. Doesn't mean that you don't understand certain things. That's why I love my animals. My bird doesn't care if you're white, black, straight, gay, LBGTQ, doesn't matter if you identify as a male, or a him or her. They don't care about any of that. We do that. We get caught up on all these unnecessary labels and this, instead of just wanting to reach out and help your fellow man. Doesn't matter what they are. You can pray to whoever you want. You can do the what. Matter of fact, let me transition this right now. You see this man right here? See this man right here? Fat boy. He doesn't care what color you are, who you are, what you did, whether you was a criminal before, whether you did. He doesn't care if you used drugs before. He doesn't care about any. You know what he cares about? Do you love me? Will you help me? Will you take care of me? So that's how I live. I don't concern myself with anybody else's this and that, and we didn't do this, and we marched for this. And every one of us knows that there's stuff going on, because I don't believe that it's only just like Black lives. I watched something the other day, and there were like 22 white people shot and killed by the police like last, and you never heard a thing about any of them. Their lives matter too. The same way my son life mattered when he was murdered. Whoever, every one of us matters. The Indians have a saying, Matakwe Wasan, which means we're all responsible for each other and everything. So if we are, and you're conscious of that, just show it. Because the people around you, they say every moment's a teachable moment. Then make it a teachable moment for somebody else. When they see you doing what you're doing, and when they ask you, why do you do that? Say, because I love them. And turn around and walk away. Because it takes two idiots to argue, one dummy to stand there. So when you walked away, there you go. And that's about the best I can tell you, man, if that answers it. Because I'm not one that get hung up on any of that stuff. I don't care about any of that stuff. All I care about is if you're hurting and I can help you in any way with my animals or sitting with you or whatever the case may be, that's a blessing. Blessings ain't about, today is my birthday. So I tell everybody, if you want to wish me a happy birthday, tell somebody you love them. Tomorrow morning, buy somebody a cup of coffee. watch what that $1 cup of coffee did for that person's life and yours. We can all show kindness, man. Sprinkle it on everything. That all the hatred, all the racist, we can drown them out. They have no voice unless we give it to them. I don't believe in giving it to them. I'm sorry for rambling. But yeah, I'm one that all of the Democrat, Republican, independent, all that stuff doesn't matter to me. All that matters to me is the people I love that love me, and I feel like I'm blessed. I'm able to do certain things and go into these neighborhoods where if I walked in Georgetown before I had the bird, I had undercover police officers watching me every step I took. Now I walk in there with that bird, everybody and their grandmother, and they comes out and they want to talk. So we break all that stuff, because what I found was it's a lot of people that's afraid to approach because they don't want to sing in a different way or so they don't say. So my whole thing is, man, talk, enjoy, love, a blink of an eye. That's all it takes. We're not guaranteed 730. So why not love now? I don't know anybody that stood over a casket and said, I regret doing all the things that I was able to do to help somebody else. I don't know anyone that said that. I know people that said, oh, I wish I would have done this. I wish I had the chance. You did have that chance. You never took the opportunity. So let's stop all that nonsense, all that lying. When people say, let's keep it 100, let's do that. I love you. I don't have to know you to love you. I know you exist. That's enough. So I posted something the other day just about that, about depression. We don't know what everyone's going through every day. But I explain to people, even on that time that you feel that no one loves you and your life is worthless, you mean $1 million to me. And I love you, even if I don't know you, because you not being here will affect me. Just that simple.
Folks in the chat say, amen, Rodney. I'll second that.
Thank you, guys. I mean, it's just
happy birthday.
the way my mom taught me.
I want to ask you some more questions about kind of how you use birds to heal and bring people together like this. But can you introduce us to your eagle owl?
Sure. This is
that we just
Mr.
met?
Hoot. Yeah. This is Mr. Hoot. Come here, fat man. I've had him for 22 years, 23 years. How old are you now? 24? Fat boy. Fat boy. See, he doesn't have his jesses on, so I can't pick him up. Wait. He do have one, I think. Come here. Step up. Can you guys see him?
It's a little dark in the back of the cage.
Male,
You can see him at first, yeah.
Yeah, he backed up. I'll get him when he comes back up to the front. I don't have his jesses aren't on because I don't have to handle them right now. So I take everything off of them. That way nothing dries up, cuts into their legs, anything like that. So he sits in there for the days. And night I usually put him out. I have a nice little house set outside for him. So he gets to set out all night and hoop with the other birds and scare half the people. And the best time to have him is Halloween, because when people walk up on the porch, they don't think he's real. Sure. And then when he turns his head and opens his wings, all the little kids drop their candy and run. So I get all of their treats and come on in the house. So I don't even have to go out to buy candy because it's brought to my door.
That's clever. You have to go to a lot of work to get more Halloween candy by being a master falconer.
Yeah.
So folks are asking if raptors have different personalities and if there's any kind of species that behave in surprising or playful ways or anything like that.
Every single animal has its own personality, just like people. So you can have red tails, and just because they're a red-tailed hawk doesn't mean that it's going to do what the typical species does. So every one of them has their own personality. Every one of them, it depends on how much time you spend with them, how much love you show them, how genuine you really are. I don't think a lot of people realize that the animals really can sense things that we have no idea about. So you can think you're a good person and all this and that, and you wondering why your animals stay away from you, and you got to chase it down and go through all it, because they know you're not who you're pretending to be. So that, I mean, it's a lot of little things like that with I explain to people the healing part of it. When you hold them, you have to hold one. Any of them. They all are goofy. Him, he loves to be tickled. When you tickle his chest, he'll flap his wings. I have one that she loves to steal out your pocket, a Harris Hawk. So if you have a baby chick or mouse or something in your pocket, she'll stick her head in your pocket. The other ones won't do it. I have one that will sit there. He will fly to you, land on the glove. The minute you go to grab his chest, he'll fly off. And if you want him back, you got to throw the food. And so it's all sorts of things. But when I tell people, repetition breeds acceptance. What you do today, do tomorrow. So the more you do it, it becomes a game. So the same way, if you're sitting there, the way you do your dog, and you tell them sit, roll over, give me a 5. Same thing with the bird. You did that over and over and over, and the same thing repetitively, and it became a game. And now I'm being rewarded each time that you grab my beak and shake my beak, and now I get a little tidbit of food. I'm gonna stick my beak out so you can grab, because I want some more food. I want more treat. So all of it becomes a thing that, believe me, on your worst days, that goofy, him especially, he'll start hooting and hooting and hooting. And he's like, can you please be quiet? And every question you ask him, he comes back with, who? So now you feel stupid because you keep asking, you, who? I'm talking to you. So, I mean, you just, believe me, they can brighten up any moment at any time. So they are, all of them have their own personality. All of them do something different. Just because it's a species, that just means generally they'll do certain things, but they all have their own personality. Yes.
In the back when we started talking this evening, you're mentioning your Harris Hawks and how they all hunt cooperatively together. I imagine those hawks didn't know each other at first, right? You were trapped in different times in different places, so they figured it out. Can you talk about kind of how that went?
Of course, with Harris Hawks, by them being desert birds, there are no trees in the desert. So jackrabbits, the game, the prey items, the males are usually 30% smaller than the females. The males are usually faster than females. So when you go to like the desert and you look at a jackrabbit, the female may be too slow to catch him. The males are fast enough to catch him and not big enough to kill him. So they'll hold on to him long enough for the females to now come in and make the kill. So they learn to hunt cooperatively. Otherwise, we would all starve. So you'll have them, they'll do what's called stacking. They'll get on top of each other so they can see in different directions at different heights. You'll have some that land on the ground, some that'll stay in the air, one that goes in and try to chase them out. And in the end, they share in the kill. Usually the largest female gets the choice pieces though, because, females run the world, so they're going to get what they want. Some. However, the largest female usually gets the choice pieces, and however, they all eat. So they all make sure that and they'll go off and they'll hunt again if one didn't get enough and things of that nature. So they work together. When you get Harris Hawks here, you may get one from here, one from over here. So you introduce them, you have them sitting in side by side where they can see each other and they're eating in front of each other and they're getting to know each other. And you'll walk past and you'll hear, and and we just think, what is all that? No, they're talking the same way we speak English. They're speaking bird. That's all. They understand each other. So they tell each other, okay, well, let's go together. And now when you take them out and you send them out together and they land up on the branch together, they look at each other, look at you like, come on, where we going? And they'll follow you everywhere you go. And so when you take groups out, say your son was having problems with one of the guys in his school and they called me. So I took your son and the guy in the school and I took 3 birds and we went out to the woods to hunt. So I told your son and the other guy, listen, I don't care how much y'all two supposed to not like each other. If I don't get my 3 birds back at the end of this, y'all gonna have to see me. Now, knowing these birds aren't going anywhere, they're gonna fly right. It's a routine. We do this every time. But then they gotta work together to make sure that, so then they finding out because we're now talking. Man, I shoot ball, I average it. Man, I like, I'm wide receiver. All of the stuff that you wouldn't have said to each other because we're supposed to be beefing over, you live over here and I live over here and you wore this color. Now y'all sitting there and y'all the best of friends before we came out those woods, because all three of the birds came right on back down like they were supposed to. And then I explained to people, I said, that feeling you got right now, tell me that didn't feel better than before we walked there. I mean, yeah. There you go. Stop worrying about what other people think about you, man. They're going to talk about you good, bad, or indifferent. So don't worry about it. They don't pay your bills. They don't do anything for you. They don't make sure that you're happy. Nothing. They are miserable. Misery loves company. Leave them by themselves. I love being different. I'm like, nobody, I don't think I know somebody remotely close to who I love, because I'm the odd. How do a guy from Southeast DC, the dunya, the concrete jungle, ends up with birds and dogs and horses and chickens? What? Because no one, I grew up in the city. I was actually born, my great grandmother had a farm. So I stayed there and I loved the animals. I just always had that connection with them. People will lie to each other. We'll stab each other in the back. We'll call each other friends and then hang up and talk about that person to someone else. When you just told me that that was your friend. So if you did that to the person that you called your friend, what would you say about me, someone that you don't even know? So that's why your opinion is yours. You're entitled to it. However, if you think that your opinion is going to make or break who I am, you've been smoking the wrong drugs, bro. I'm telling you, you've been doing the wrong things, because I know who I am. That's it. You know how we all say we have a purpose. They always say everybody has a purpose. Well, one of our purposes is to love each other, to help each other, teach each other, forgive each other. I can't hold you accountable for something you didn't do. So how am I mad at you? What does that really say about me? That I'm gonna carry a grudge against somebody who I don't even know, they did nothing to me. That's the thing I'm trying to explain to people. Get out of that mind frame. We'll never go anywhere with this. I gotta have a better car than you. My house gotta be bigger than yours. My bank account. You drop dead right now. What did that big house, big car, all that money mean? Nothing. And if you took some time and spent it with someone you love, or brought love into someone else's life, you had all that big car, big money, big this, all you was talking about, and you didn't help anybody else. So that made you smaller than those people who didn't have and gave because they knew what it was to have absolutely nothing. So when they got a little something, they shared it with those people who they knew still had nothing. I love those people. I'll come anywhere for those people at any time. Because when you want to give love back like that, that's one of the most beautiful, it can overcome everything. Make someone happy, make someone smile. You never know who life you saved, including your own, from that one act of kindness.
A lot of the book reveals just how passionate you are about mentorship and about teaching others and about inspiring children to find themselves. And I know a lot of our audience, folks that are on the call tonight, are teachers, educators, and are mentors of young people also. And just hearing you get so passionate and fired up and inspired about these sorts of things, I just want to know, like, what what advice you have for other mentors that are trying to do what you do in their own way. How do you try to inspire young people, inspire other people to live well and to do what you're just speaking of here?
I would really, my best thing to tell everybody is just be honest. When you're trying not to offend, you're offending. So just be honest. Say it the way it has to be said. Say whatever it is that it has to be said. All of that. I'm trying to step on eggshells to make sure I'm not going to do that. You take it, you take it. If you in your feelings, I explain to you, go home, write a letter, mail it to yourself, When you get the letter, read it, and then realize how dumb you are for going home, writing a letter, mailing it to yourself, waiting for that letter. And I'm going to sit here and argue with you. No. So I'm not going to tiptoe around things, put your feelings in your pockets. That's where they belong. Because when we're trying to step on those eggs and not crack them and do all of that, we're doing more harm. So I want you to understand, this is the reality of what the decisions that you are trying to make. This is what it really is. There's no, okay, well, you know, if you do, nah, Slim, this is how it is. This is where you end up. This is what, you know, and just be honest. If you tell them you're going to do something, do it. Don't tell them you're going to do something and, oh, the day of, oh, well, something came. No, if you found out a week before, be upfront. Hey, guys, I found out that this may not go on. I wanted you guys to know upfront. That's the same respect that you would sit there and say, if somebody did that to you, you'd be, all you had to do was give me a call. You knew this. Same thing. Give them that respect. Treat them the same. Don't take the kid gloves off. All that. It's not that you're being rude and rough, but you want them to understand, come talk to me. I explained to them with my kids as they were growing up. I would tell them, listen, sometimes you get so frustrated that you can't put your words together. Give it to me how you got to give it to me. So they would come in there, 8, 9 years, Dad, this SHIT is getting on my nerve. I can't get. I say, all right, now, you got all that out? Yes, sir. Then give it to me straight. Dad, the situation that's going on is this. All right, now, you see how you got that part? Now, what we're going to do now is find a way to curve that anger part, to get that part out the way so you can give me that from the start. And they all looked at me like, Dad, you allowed me to say X, Y, and Z to you? Yeah, because you wasn't talking to me in that way. It wasn't every word came out your mouth. You walking around here. Yeah, but we're having a conversion, young man to grown man. Well, what I'm teaching you is as you become, all of that young man dumb stuff goes out the window. So you know how to do it. Now we got to figure out how to get that anger part out the way so that you can express yourself where you get your point across without it becoming some defensive thing. And so that's what just the consistency, the honesty, the truth about it all. I explain to people, I grew up on welfare, food stamps, government cheese. My mother smoked crack when I was little. I watched her smoke drugs up until I walked in the house one day. She had everything on the table. I said, Mom, what's wrong? She said, I don't want it no more. I said, well, quit. She said, what you think I can't? I ain't gonna smoke no more. For 20, I want to say about 28, at least 25 years of her life before she died, she never smoked another drug, drank anything, period. So when you tell people your mother used to do, yeah, because I can also tell you how she overcame that. What you are ashamed of, what happened in your life, those things, those young people are going through the same thing. And they don't know, they think that when we were kids, y'all don't know what we talking. You ain't never go through this. Yeah. So let them know that we just as human as you are. We hurt, we cry, we do. We're not just your mentor. We're not just the person over you. No, we're the same. You need love and respect the same way I do. So we're not that. I don't try to put myself as like I'm you. I call you and check up on you. What you ain't doing? No. You know that respect line that we're gonna have for each other. And anytime someone steps out of that, you don't have to get all upset and turn it into something. Just say, you know that's not who we are. I've shown you nothing except respect. Why would you want to disrespect me? And you're saying that just in that, and you really touching on souls. If I get mad, you can't talk to me that way. You're going to get defensive right back. So that teachable moment. Now you realize I can come talk to him about stuff I can't talk to my mother and father about. I know people who were about to commit suicide, who were on their way of doing things that really, they shouldn't have had no business doing, and no one else knew because they felt they could come and talk to me because they knew Rodney got locked up. Rodney went through this. Rodney brother did it. Rodney's son did. Wait a minute, man. This man being honest, I can go talk to him. for that person that sat back and act like, oh, I've never did this. I didn't eat fried bologna sandwiches. I didn't go through this. I had all. Why am I come tell you? There's no way you can understand what I'm going through. So that's my whole thing, to just be there. Just be who you are and tell them what you are able to do. Don't promise nothing you can't do. I'm sorry for babbling. I just get into it when there's something about that love for the people and anybody. It's not just young people, it's everybody. Because all of us can learn from anybody if we open up and allow it. Period.
Well, hey, we appreciate it. The floor is yours. So we appreciate learning from you. Well, you were just speaking about your mom, and that actually is a great way to transition. We're closing in on 7:30, so I really want to make sure that we can hit on. Folks are wondering. There she is.
That's my mom.
So how did she get the name Dippy?
That was her nickname. I don't know that when I first found out she was my mother, her name was Dippy. So I don't know where it came from. But I have a horse. I actually had a horse named Dippy, named after her, and she's a big gray thoroughbred. And so everyone asked me, why did I name my horse Dippy? And I explained to them, my mother rode my back for 40 plus years before she died. So now I get to ride her back for the next 40 plus years. So that whole thing of that's why I explain to people, the animals, everything, they can bring you and break those walls, break those barriers down. They, no color, no race, no religion, no anything. The moment you pull that bird out or that animal out, now we can talk about everything. People will open up, even if it's a goldfish. Look at it. Tell them, you know what it took for that fish to be able to breathe under that water like that and swim around and do it. You would just think he's mindless swim. What has to go into all of this and the temperature? And then you got people thinking about a goldfish. But what they don't understand is they're now using their brain and accepting something that you never even would have thought about before. You know, you wait a minute, I can learn. And then you realize, give them a quiz at the end. How many times did that fish went from left side to the right side? 10. So if you do that 10 more times in the course of a day, how many times did you do it a day? There you. Now there's a math lesson. It's so many little things you can use. I mean, it's just, yeah, the food that they eat. You know, what did they eat? How much did they eat? So now you're weighing this, you're doing measurements, so all of those little things you're involved in animal, a white mouse, anything that you're not afraid of that the school system will let you be able to, believe me, that animal will change everything.
How's Dippy's dream coming along? And especially, how do we support Dippy's dream in your work and yeah, how can we share the love with you on your birthday here?
You could go on Rodney's Raptors. There's a donate page on there for I think it's PayPal or something like that. I have Dippy's dream is coming along. I explain to people, anytime if you have a tent and you want to camp out, come on. I have 7 acres. I have 40 acres wired off. So when you're on the inside, you're in there where the horses are and everything. And then it's fenced off again so that you can have your little campground area and you can sit there and wake up in the morning and have a horse sitting over the fence looking at you, little chickens running around, and you wake up and you're outside in just nature, hearing the birds singing, and you're not hearing ambulances and fire department and gunshots and this and that. That kills. Stress really does kill. So it's just a place where you can come, take your shoes off and walk in the grass and watch what happens to your body. Watch how you feel just standing there on what is our mother, because Earth is the mother. So you're standing there and your mom got you. Man, do you know how beautiful that is? And that's what I explain to people. I want them to be able to come and do. So it's not about how much money you have. You don't have to have a dime. You get here, pitch your tent. And can't nobody make you leave except me. And I'm not going to tell you to go anywhere. You're doing what you're doing.
What What inspired you to write the book?
To be totally honest, I don't do what I do for any type of publicity whatsoever. That's why it took so long for even a book to come. I've been doing this for 30 years in total. People ask me about writing a book before, and I explain to them, it's not about a book. I do what I do just because. So the lady, Kate Pipkin, that actually co-wrote the book with me, she came to a presentation that I did, one of my Raptor demonstrations, and she asked me, why isn't there a book written about you? I said, the people who asked me before told me a lie. The first time you lie to me, even about what time you're going to show up, I'll leave you alone, because I don't really, the Hollywood type of brag type of thing, I don't know the exact adjective that you would want to put there, and that's not me. The best thing that came out of this for me, I got to do 2 Make-A-Wish for one little boy and one little girl. And when the Make-A-Wish Foundation call you, that's usually at that time that is towards the end. And I'm saying, I'm this little Black guy from Southeast DC, the ghetto. Everyone I've ever seen on there has been basketball players and Fortune 500 company owners, singers, where they can fly people out in jets and show them all this time. And I can just show up with a bird, and they felt like they were at the World Series. I mean, it is, I just love this just, so it wasn't about a book. I didn't really want, and then she said, Rodney, someone may read this somewhere and it may inspire them. So I said, okay, well, let's write it. And it took about a little over 2 years, I think, in total. And so I just wanted to hopefully inspire somebody else to get up and do it. You know, we can talk about it for 10 years. It takes 5 minutes to get up and start. So let's get up and do it. And I've gotten some responses of people that told me that it made them want to get back into certain things, and that they've started getting back into those things. So
It's a beautiful book. I encourage folks to go check it out, Bird Brother. I just put a link in the chat at the bottom, a link to Rodney's website. We can go and see more about his work, make a donation. When we wrap things up here, I'll put a slide up on the screen with Rodney's contact info. And I just want to say thanks again to you, Rodney, for your time this evening, and to all of our sponsors, of course, for making this possible tonight. Thanks to everybody, all 67 of you here that turned out.
I'll say bye-bye. Bad boy. I'm sorry, guys. That's my man. Yeah. I've had him 23 years, 24 years, something like that. So, yeah.
Well, that's an appropriate way to wrap things up. Rodney, thank you so much.
No, thank you, guys. You guys have a good one. I hope I answered your questions and we all learned a little something tonight.
Absolutely. We appreciate you. Happy birthday, Rodney.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.